The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 seconds, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists Ben Ark from BTC IoT,
Hello.
Dan Eve from Crypto Raptor,
My Corona.
Josh Gagala from Voltoro,
Ma'am.
and I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. Moving on to issue one. Issue one, Bitcoin and coronavirus. The coronavirus continued to spread this week, with infections being reported all over the United States and Europe, sending stock prices plummeting and Bitcoin prices soaring. Fears of a prolonged outbreak affecting manufacturing, supply lines, and much more have created a panic not seen since the 2008 financial crisis. Ben Ark, I ask you, is the coronavirus good for Bitcoin?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's bad for humanity. I mean, it's an incredibly dangerous epidemic and soon to be a pandemic, which is going to be have a very worrying impact on humanity. But I think that Bitcoin kind of got caught up in the wake of the world markets and got pulled down as well, and now just retracing back up. So it hasn't really pumped. But I think people have remembered why Bitcoin is there, that it's somewhere where you can put your money and it's outside of the sort of financial system. So it's a safe place to put your money. But it's just a game of Jenga. The world, the world's economy, and it for a while there's where, and I think that which gets pulled out and the whole system comes collapsing down. So I'm very much like a coronavirus believer. I've taken my family from where I live and I've moved to a small Scottish island, which I'm bunkered in now. We've got a very small population of people on the island. So I very much think that coronavirus is going to be incredibly dangerous for people. And also being someone in Bitcoin as well, it's I've been keeping an eye on the Bitcoin price, and it has started to react as I would expect it to react in a crisis like this. But we have to really be prepared for some really worrying times ahead of us. And when we come out of it eventually, which we will do, hopefully, what will the world's economy look like after that? I think China could be a much larger player as they have a surplus economy, and we're very much in a deficit. UK government debt yields on interest are lower than they've ever been. So that's a very worrying sign just for the general state of the world's economy. So some rocky times ahead, but eventually we will come out of it. I hope as many of us as possible survive, and then we'll have to just move on from there. And hopefully Bitcoin can help people in some way securing their money, or in the future maybe.
Doom and gloom from Scotland. Dan Eve, Crypto Raptor.
Hey there. Well, I suppose I don't like thinking of it as will coronavirus be good for Bitcoin, because then I'm kind of also thinking, well, it's good if it spreads and there's absolute havoc and stuff. So I kind of try and detach myself from when there's a humanitarian crisis, but at the same time, a pump would be really good, and we are going into the halving. I think the real problems are going to start rippling out when supply chains are completely screwed. There's so many goods that are manufactured in China, or parts are, that it's just going to ripple out. There's going to be all sorts of shortages from general products like Apple products. I think the face masks also I think 95% of US face masks are made in China or something. So I think that's going to have a long-lasting effect. But hopefully Bitcoin just does its thing. We've got the Blockstream satellite, so hopefully that's going to be sort of saving people without internet. And obviously, the emergence of these mesh networks as well. So it's going to be very interesting. But I'm kind of a bit aloof at the moment, because it seems to only affect the elderly, which is really bad. And maybe conspiracy, because it affects the elderly, if it sort of spread worldwide and their economies are a bit in stagnation, it would unlock a lot of pension, inheritance money. So conspiracy, could be a dynamite bomb to kickstart the economy.
Some kind of bomb, that's for sure. Let's go to Josh Kagala from Voltoro.
Well, as Ben has moved to Scotland, I see Crypto Raptor has taken his dog and moved to outer space, which is absolutely phenomenal. But in terms of Bitcoin, look, we've already seen the start of the stock market was going up. Planes were being grounded, stock market's going up. We just kept on seeing pump after pump after pump, yet the virus kept on moving. The virus kept on spreading. Now, eventually we saw a crash, quite a substantial crash. And what happened to Bitcoin? Well, it also went down. I don't think Bitcoin is immune to this virus. And I think we'll see an extreme drop in Bitcoin for a little while, until what happens is that banks will start failing. Because HSBC has got 90% of their pre-tax profits coming out of the Asia region. They're firing a whole bunch of people throughout the US and Europe. They're slimming down. They have massive investments within supply chains. It only takes one link of that supply chain for whole investments to drop out, which means that they're going to have to make up with those gains in other areas. And I've got a whole article coming out on Voltoro.com about this, but I think you'll see banks failing. Now, when banks fail, this is where the Fed can step in, because they cannot rescue everyone from supply chains, but they can rescue banks by flooding more and more market money into the markets. Now, when this happens, that's when Bitcoin's time to shine is, because there are only 21 million, and less than that because a lot have been lost. So once we start seeing that banks start pouring more and more money in, this is where the protection comes in. And I think in the current crisis, we're all technocrats. We love Bitcoin. We're in that space. But I think gold is where the typical people are going to flood to, the markets are going to flood to. Sadly, and this is very, very dangerous for gold, is that the markets will flood to the GLD ETF, which by chance, who owns the gold, is the custodian of that gold? Well, HSBC is. So HSBC is looking very, very dodgy. I would definitely never hold gold in the GLD ETF, but a lot of funds, that's the only gold they can buy, because it's so hard to buy, to move the money outside of the stock market, put it back into cash, and then go buy allocated somewhere. It's a lot more expensive. So a lot of people are just going to flood their money into the GLD, and probably maybe that will bail out HSBC in the end. I'm not sure, but yeah, that's my rant for Bitcoin.
I think this goes well into the exit question. Ben Ark, is it better to have cash, goods, or Bitcoin?
I reckon a third of each. A third of each is good.
Dan Eve.
Yeah, I was going to say, you got to kind of spread your risk, because although there's a lot of amazing infrastructure that is making Bitcoin less reliant on specifically the internet, it's not quite there yet. So you probably should have a bit of cash, or like goats or something you can trade.
Josh Kagala.
In a shit hits the fan scenario, you want whiskey. Whiskey is extremely divisible. Everybody wants to get drunk when it's fucked. And yeah, it's always a good way of trading. You can trade capfuls, you can trade little bottlefuls, and so whiskey is a good one to hold. But yeah, gold, whiskey, of course, food. This thing's going to pass. It's not going to be the end of the world. Don't be, we don't want to cause hype and craziness here, but it's definitely going to cause some havoc in the markets. Yeah.
To issue two, friends like these. Famous Bitcoin advocate Trace Mayer came out in support of privacy-focused Mimble Coin this week, with a large portion of the Bitcoin community reacting unfavorably, basically burning their Trace Mayer jerseys in the public square. Meanwhile, Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong continues to speak out against Bitcoin, saying that the coin that created his company and his personal wealth is not private enough, and also refusing to use the word Bitcoin on Twitter, often deleting his tweets and replacing it with the generic word crypto. Dan, Eve, are there no heroes left in Bitcoin? Or worse, are all of our Bitcoin heroes destined to sell out?
Well, I think it seems like the public opinion forks more often than every other coin put together. And there's a lot of, riding on the pillars of Bitcoin, for example, scarcity. And when someone comes out with a product that other people, are using, like, for example, Mimblewimble, they're trying to, build something and say that it's different to Bitcoin and give another reason, then the people that were ultimately fully against shitcoins now turn against them, and then, then it forks further. So I don't know. I think it's sad to see that people fracture so easily, and there's a bit of a culture of blocking, really. I like to hear everyone's opinions, and maybe I don't really ruffle any feathers. I'm too much of a wuss. But if you sit in your own echo chamber, then other ideas that are outside of your own spectrum become a bit too alien to you. So I think it's all a bit too much drama, to be honest. I think Trace has done a lot for Bitcoin. He was actually I started listening to his podcast before World CryptoNet, and it used to be the Run to Gold podcast. So yeah, I mean, everyone who's outside the specific Bitcoin circle is going to get grief, and everyone in it's going to get grief from everyone outside it. So it's just a case of avoid the politics and just try and look for the good things.
Josh Gagala, no more heroes?
There's always heroes. Our lovely host here is a hero of Bitcoin, I've got to say. But it's one of these things that there's always going to be new coins. There's always going to be new assets. People are going to. I think the notion of pre-mine is kind of awful in a way, but it makes sense in other ways as long as you know it. If they're hiding a pre-mine, it's pretty shocking. But if if people want to buy that new thing, then hey, let's see if it competes. Everything's tried to compete with Bitcoin so far. It's still way behind. It hasn't really worked. I was reading an article just today about Freicoin back in 2013, and in CoinDesk they were saying, they're taking off where Bitcoin left off, and you just think, what, really? It had this huge hype because everyone was like, yeah, demurrage. It means that if you hold too long, it'll redistribute itself around, and everyone's like, this will make people spend it, and huge hype, and then dead. Like literally blown flatlined at near zero, and it's never taken off again. And so let it, competition maximalism, let's do it.
Ben Ark.
I mean, I only concentrate on Bitcoin, but it's freedom of association, voluntary association, whatever people want to associate themselves with, or whatever system they want to experiment with, or whatever tools they want to experiment with. I know Trace Mayer has spoken about, he's always wanted full privacy on the base layer, so he's very much into privacy, and Mimblewimble gives some tools, some levels of privacy which Bitcoin doesn't currently have on a base layer, but will, with some of the mass stuff which is coming in. So yeah, it makes sense that he's excited and interested in the project, and if that's what he wants to explore, then let him explore it. It's voluntary. No one should stop him. I don't like the maximalist mantra. It's a no true Scotsman, but being in Scotland as well. So it's a no true Scotsman. It just renders down to the most ridiculous version of a Bitcoin you can possibly have. It does more damage than it does good. So yeah, I mean, I'm all in Bitcoin. I love Bitcoin, but I mean, if Trace Mayer wants to go and explore Mimblewimble, then crack on. And good luck to him. And as other people have said, he's been great for Bitcoin. He's more than put his time in. He's been here probably longer than all of us. So it's the community shouldn't be so quick to turn their back on him, and some of the people speaking out against him, it's just ridiculous. It makes Bitcoiners look bad in general. So yeah, just let the dude do what he wants to do.
I think this blends well to the exit question. Dan Eve, is Bitcoin a suicide pact akin to the mafia's vow of silence? Once you can join Bitcoin, you could never get out. That seems.
Hello. Yeah, I think of it as it's very akin to religion, and the fact that Satoshi is no longer around to confirm what he meant by his messages. So everyone has their own interpretation. They pick the different words. They see, try and find the reasoning behind it. And I think it's sometimes one of these exercises where it's like not numerology, but you can take any interpretation out of the data, and you can also run any number of things to get what you want out of it. So I tend not to double down too much and keep an open mind, because otherwise I'll ignore science when it hits me, because my belief is stronger than the evidence that I see. But having said that, Bitcoin's the Don. So it's always going to be the biggest, and actually competition is good for it because it's resilient. It shows that it's survived the hard forks, it survived soft forks, it survived like 10,000 coins. It's clearly the biggest and best and most secure, and yeah, get your financial self-sovereignty here.
Josh Kagala.
Yeah, I totally agree. It'll survive, and I think it's kind of wrong to say that Bitcoin hasn't got enough privacy. And I'm kind of fascinated by Brian Armstrong's reasoning there, because I mean, maybe it's gotten to this stage because he's realized that the IRS is really hammering down, and the only way to beat a lot of this is to have more privacy. But at the end of the day, the IRS is hammering down on his company. So it doesn't matter how private the on-chain stuff is. If you've got a company that's sitting there with all the coins, that's auditable because it's all not on-chain but on database. And yeah, you don't really have a choice. One thing that is a total falsehood anyway is that Bitcoin isn't private enough, because it is definitely private enough if you want it to be. If you want to jump through a bunch of hoops, you can definitely mix the heck out of that stuff, and there's no way that with current technology that you can trace back. And even with the best technology in 10 years' time, you would only be able to say that the likelihood of this coin being that person's is probably, so and so. But there's just, the whole law works on benefit of the doubt, and it also works on how certain are you of a certain guilt. And by breaking down the certainty, you're making it more fungible. As well, Lightning Network. I mean, Ben can talk more about this, but Lightning Network takes crypto much further down the privacy road, and then Mast and all these other things that are coming along are also working on it. So I find it, really kind of interesting that Brian brought that up, because I know that he's rejected coins like Dash for having inbuilt mixers. Well, I don't know if he has himself. I think the regulators that are like holding his noose pretty tight are the ones that are saying, no, don't go near that coin because it's got inbuilt mixers, and so on and so forth. But yeah, that's
I think you're exactly right, Josh. Even if there was a coin like Brian's describing, his company wouldn't be able to use it. He's in that unique kind of monkey's paw, kind of cursed riches, Midas touch kind of situation. They've been so successful. Everyone stores their coins there, but now they're going to have to rat everyone out. And the IRS and whoever else it is coming for all of them. And as much as Brian might have been a cypherpunk or a libertarian, or he might have had some kind of those values in the beginning, now he's created this monster, and they're just going to go and devour everyone. So I'm sure it's kind of Trumpian in a way, what he's saying there, where he's exposing his true problems when he's trying to project them on other coins. Ben from Wales, your thought? Bitcoin has to be only Bitcoin?
I mean, I first heard of Mimblewimble when it was dropped, because it was dropped on the IRC chat. Andrew Palestra picked it up, and then did some work trying to sort of make sense of the proposal and realized there was something there. it's very much a Bitcoin. It's exciting technology. It's interesting technology. So to ignore it is daft. Like you want to explore it and embrace it. And if there's some platform you can use to experiment with it, then great. Yeah, Bitcoin's, sometimes people try and act like Bitcoin's a faith system, and it shouldn't be a faith system, because if you think of it that way, then you think, well, this is Bitcoin, and this is exactly how Bitcoin works, and this is how it will always work. And then when it changes, you get your feathers in a ruffle, and so like there's just sort of crying heresy when people. I think my internet connection is a bit dodgy. Crying heresy when people decide to explore other technologies is it's not helpful. It's not helpful at all. Andrew Pilastri, who's one of the first people to read about Nimblewimble, he's still very much with Bitcoin. He's explored the technology, and he's contributed to its development. So just let it evolve, let it see where it grows. It's fine. Yeah.
In fact, if I could just quickly add to what Ben was saying there, it's really that I find when someone like I hate to say it, but Roger Ver says this is the original Bitcoin, and tries to confuse people into which one is which. That I find dodgy. I don't mind people forking off from Bitcoin. I don't mind, go for it. Try to compete. Let's do it. Let's go. If you've got it, wow, you think bigger blocks are good? Let's do it.
But is it not like I don't know, like the Crusades, and you've got sort of the Muslims, and you've got Christianity, and the Christians, and they're saying this is the one true God. No, this is the one true God, and they're battling each other and fighting, and actually their interpretation was quite similar. But is it not?
Even if we say it's okay to break off, like it's okay that Andreas wrote the book Mastering Ethereum. He's writing Mastering Lightning now. It's okay. It's really not okay, right? We're putting a purity test out there, whether you enforce it or not. There's now a first class Bitcoiner, and then there's a second class one, and then I think there's others where they've done projects. Like I've certainly done other projects, and then they could go back and hang you on it, but they forgot about them. It's so complicated to really keep track of who's really a pure Bitcoiner. I agree with Ben. It was the no true Scotsman. But let's get Dan in here. More from Dan. Are you a pure Bitcoiner? We need more purity.
I Bitcoin from the start, but I'm not going to lie, I got kind of hooked in with altcoins because I started trying to buy like Butterfly Labs and miners back in the day, and I had cubes for Bitcoin, but they weren't profitable. So then I switched to GPUs. So and I still kind of dabble a bit, but that's because I like fiddling with new wallets. There's loads of wallets that accept Bitcoin only, but there's some of the actual coin wallets that are quite interesting. Actually, like GByte or Byteball, whatever it is now, that was a very interesting wallet. It's not blockchain, it's what is it called, the DAG. But still, I like fiddling around with these new technologies. And
I like to keep all my funds on the DAG. I keep them on the DAG.
And as a business analyst, I like seeing functions that are usable and improving a scenario. And if some other coin comes up with it first, then the cool thing is that Bitcoin will adopt it. I like competition, but Bitcoin is king.
When you dag a sheep, you cut the hair off around its asshole so that so that the shit doesn't hang around there and the flies don't cause it to get back, and then it dies. Yeah, so that's a dag.
And dag is also a dog in Snatch. You got the dags.
Oh, those guys do a good job running their projects. They do some good work. And ether is a gas that gets you high. It doesn't really exist. So, all right, moving on. Did you know the World Crypto Network has its own audio podcast? Check it out on iTunes and wherever you listen to your audio podcasts. Give us a thumbs up, a good rating, and a share on audio podcasts. Moving on to issue 3, power plant. A power plant in upstate New York has begun using its excess electricity to mine Bitcoin. As predicted several times on this show, the plant installed thousands of mining rigs at its facility and is now producing an average of 5.5 Bitcoins a day, or around $50,000. Ben from Wales, is this the beginning of something more? Is it telling that they didn't mine Ethereum or Dogecoin, but that they actually mined Bitcoin?
Yeah, no, I love a story like this because it kind of reinforces that stuff we have been saying for years, that it's a great way to if you have surplus energy, which your plant is producing, in order to make your power plant more financially viable, you can lock that value up and you can put it into Bitcoin and then sell the Bitcoin later on. It's great. There was a problem for a while, however, that, you know, with ASICs evolving as they were, that you couldn't get the miners in the mining quick enough, and you couldn't have downtime. Whereas now, with the evolution of ASICs becoming slower, then you start to see maybe more use cases. I think the UASF talk was that the miners, so it makes sense to employ, you know, beefy guys who've got a lot of power and can put a lot of hash rate. So it makes sense to employ them to do the heavy lifting. So no, a great story, and I very much hope to see more stories like this, but in green energy and wind farms and water, what did you call them, dams and whatever else. So yeah, good story.
It is kind of a patting on the back story. The main reason we're having it on the show is because we've talked about it so many times that this is a great use for Bitcoin. You don't have enough batteries at the plant. You can't do anything with the excess energy. You can't shut off the waterfall. The waterfall just keeps going. So why not put this excess energy somewhere, put it in Bitcoin? And this also brings up the idea that Bitcoin is kind of, in a way, an energy currency. You can store the value of the energy inside the Bitcoin. You just can't get the energy back out. The energy is gone.
It makes perfect sense, because as a society evolves and it uses more energy, it makes sense that the currency would then be a representation of energy itself. Let's
go to Josh from Vaultoro.
Yeah, they are. I've seen in Silicon Valley, I think there was a power plant there that had huge, big stone rock that would they would slowly start moving and turning, and so and then when the energy at nighttime went out, the energy from the rock took over. That just spun on its axis, and this flywheel would then power the night power. But yeah, I mean, I think there's other iterations of this. Like we're all in here in Europe, heating our homes with oil and with hot water that revolves around the houses, and it seems ridiculous when I could really just run a few miners if the fans were very, very silent. That would heat the place as well as earn me money. So there's lots of really cool use cases. One of the weirdest use cases I remember was like way back in 2013 or something, where someone was saying, oh, some company came out and they got all this VC funding. They got a shed load of VC funding. And what was their product? A light bulb that was a miner. It was the strangest thing. Do you guys remember that? It was the weirdest thing, because you think, hang on.
Mining companies, Bitfury, one of the.
Was it?
And it was just a side project, and they showed up to Necker Island, where Richard Branson, the billionaire or whatever from Virgin, was, and they're like, Mr. Branson, it's amazing, sir. Look what we've done. It's a light bulb that mines Bitcoin. And like, and no, they were treated seriously. They were not laughed out.
It's so weird, because light already emits heat. I mean, unless it's LED, I guess, but like it's already burning hot. Like, you don't want to put a miner on that. You want to put a miner on something like a heater.
Sir, we've also invented an air conditioner that mines Bitcoin. Yes, the heat comes out right where the cold comes out.
Brilliant.
All right, let's go to Crypto Raptor.
That's actually a really cool idea. Isn't it New York that's still partly powered, like the heating is partly powered by steam, which is why you see the sort of vents. So imagine, like, you know, a city implementing a load of miners where the heat just distributes around to all the other people. Similar to, I visited a friend over New Year's Eve, and he's in Germany near the biggest like beer factory, and they use I think it's heat from the excess yeast to power the heat for the town, so it's dirt cheap. But moving on to the coronavirus, I think this will be a really good test to see Bitcoin, how it's impacted by the supply chain, and specifically by China, where people think that all of or most of the mining comes from. So if that's actually true, then we should be probably seeing drops because of supply problems, manufacturing problems, maintenance, whatever. You know, there's a lot of supply chains that are hit at the moment. In actual fact, I checked earlier, it's something I haven't checked for a while. And the Bitcoin hash rate peaked about, I don't know, not long ago at all, at nearly 138. Well, I say 1.38 exahashes. Exahashes. God damn it. Either way, it's the highest it's ever been. And at the moment, I think it's around 110 million to 130 million terahash. So yeah, that doesn't seem to be affected right now. But the excess supply thing, it's always beneficial to have something to use your electricity for if you're oversupplying. You can't store
it's a little of a greed index, right? It's like, are you willing to run outside and install new miners even though there's a coronavirus? Is someone willing to glue chips to a board and send them to you even though there's a coronavirus? We're seeing how greedy people are versus how much they want to stay inside.
Yeah. And I think there's also the natural evolution of that. Once people realize that, E equals MC squared, but Bitcoin equals energy too. And so if you have energy, you can turn it into Bitcoin. So I think we're going to see the proliferation of power outlets using batteries that are going to die, for example, or just using any excess energy to be able to mine Bitcoin.
And let's move on to the exit question. As industrial Bitcoin mining ramps up, is this actually the end of the home miner, or will some still survive? Ben Ark.
Yeah, I think home mining was a bit of a red herring. I think we just employ the beefiest guys with the most access to most energy, and they're going to be the ones who secure Bitcoin. Maybe in the future something will change, but for now, no. Home mining's on its way up dead.
Josh Kagala.
I still think there's a market for because everything's become so cheap once you make these ASICs, especially the USB ASICs, that you can sell these USB ASICs for about the same price as a lottery ticket. And you could just plug them in and almost solo mine. And your chances are probably about the same as a lottery ticket to win that 25 Bitcoin. And you would add a little bit of hash power at home. Someone PM'd me the other day with a new browser. New browser, it mines for you. It's so funny because really all it's doing is running a JavaScript in the background that sort of basically takes over your internet, and so your whole computer will go while you're surfing the net, which sounds terrible to me. But I think that there's some projects like this sort of lottery concepts that might still happen.
Dan Eve, can I get you a toaster that mines Bitcoin?
Well, I think actually that I thought back to the power plants, and I suddenly thought, how are they going to, it's a lot of equipment to maintain and stuff. I'll get back to the question there. But imagine they have essentially they'll have motherboards and power supplies, and the only thing that will change is the chips, and they'll probably come in I don't know, like graphics card type packages, and then that makes them more interchangeable than having to get new complete units. So I think that's where it might evolve. You'll almost have blade servers kind of for Bitcoin mining. But going back to the question,
one further, I think it's going to be shipping containers. Just the way they do with data centers, you just bring in a shipping container, plug in the new one, unplug the old one, and sadly melt the ASICs down for metal.
And gold as well. Isn't there gold in chipsets too?
There's gold in them there chips.
There's gold in them there chips. So I think home mining, it's going to become more of a niche. It will be me matey. It will be like running a node, running a miner, just so that you're contributing to the network. It's almost like voting, and people, I think, as the products get more clever, from light bulbs to routers or whatever, things that are on all the time, we'll probably see more of those products that again might have interchangeable parts, so that you can add a few more chips and get some higher hash rate out of your washing machine.
I'm very pessimistic of this.
I'm not sure I understand. Come on, we'll get you a heater that you can just leave in your kid's room. We'll make money for you. What's not to like?
It doesn't make any financial sense if you the people who have access to cheap or free energy, and a lot of it, they're going to be the ones who mine Bitcoin, and they're just going to outhash anyone with a light bulb or a toaster or anything else.
The beauty of this is that that earned
mine Shitcoin.
$21 made so much money
Mine Ethereum.
selling this idea. And they went out there and legitimately told people that there would be Bitcoin miners in toasters and that they were the company to do it. And that all of our complaints saying it wasn't a good idea were all wrong.
21.com, that's the one. No,
That's the
yeah.
one. And that's exactly where Balaji came from. Balaji, who now knows everything about the virus because he was right about an early article where Silicon Valley stopped handshaking and started fist bumping. And ever since then, he's been the hero of the virus. So just goes to show you can get pretty far as long as Coinbase just buys your company and erases everything you ever made. Anyway, moving on to issue 4, countries legalize. Germany and India took big steps towards accepting cryptocurrencies rather than fighting them this week, with India legalizing cryptocurrency trading, at least for now. The bank is already challenging it to the Indian Supreme Court, and Germany enabling banks to sell and store crypto, creating what is being called by many as a crypto haven in Deutschland. Josh Gagala, is this crypto normalization the beginning of a positive trend towards the legalization and acceptance of cryptocurrencies planet-wide?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's ridiculous to ban math. I think it's just a stupid concept. You're going to have a massive brain drain on your hands, and it doesn't make any sense. I mean, we have this new technology. It's like banning the internet or banning computers, because bad people use it too. So I think we're going to see a lot of extra money fly in from India now as these on-ramps come on board. But these on-ramps can also be turned off, and so it's about. I'm a bit tired of. I'm in the exchange game as well. We run an exchange. It's I'm not hating on exchanges, but it's the fact that we need to start building an economy where we start accepting Bitcoin as payment to each other. And this is all the great work that Ben does in terms of the Lightning Network. And it allows us to have the economy start to become circular. So it doesn't really matter if a country cuts off this on-ramp or off-ramp, because we need to start using it without them. I mean, we already do, but a lot of people that accept Bitcoin are instantly hedging out using, BitPay and stuff like this into fiat, and that's unfortunate. And this is, something to do also with the volatility. But there's also ways of, shorting Bitcoin to hedge it. If there might be other mechanisms instead of going out to fiat. There's other mechanisms to go. So I think we need to embrace getting paid and paying in Bitcoin, and this also means getting software that is easy to use, that allows us, sadly, to do taxes and things and calculate all that, because a lot of businesses don't want to accept Bitcoin because the accounting is just a pure nightmare, and they'll just go too hard basket back to fiat because my accounting software deals with it. So these on-ramps are fantastic for Bitcoin. It's great that we have them, but they can also be turned off. I mean, how many times has China been turned on and off and on and off and on and off?
Ben from Wales, Germany and India leading the way forward.
Yeah, I mean, Josh is right. I mean, India have realized you can't ban maths, it's crackers. They were quite heavy on Bitcoin a few years ago, if I remember correctly, and I think now they've realized you can't stop it. Indian citizens are still using it, so they may as well try and embrace it. So that they're starting to soften, which is good, because India is full of very excellent computer scientists and engineers who can build some cool stuff for Bitcoin and build out the Bitcoin ecosystem. So it's good that they're softening. With Germany, I think I can't help feeling that, I'm someone who didn't think Brexit was a particularly good idea, and I can't help feeling that Germany, they're hoarding all that cash in those vaults, and they're literally having to. I mean, is this right, Josh? They're literally having to buy more vaults to hoard the cash because the banks can't store enough cash. Yeah,
that's right. The vaulting facilities that we use has had to say no to Deutsche Bank and some other banks, because they don't want to pay the negative interest rates by paying it back to the central banks and holding it there. So they hold literal physical bags of cash, and it's quite a volume physical cash. So because it doesn't store much value. So it's an incredibly weird situation where these banks are literally old school hoarding cash in physical vaults. Yeah.
That's hilarious to hear the banks involved in that. Usually I hear about the marijuana companies in the United States. They're selling cannabis. They can't accept and use the banking system because it's federally illegal, but in the state it may be legal. So they have the same thing, these vaults. So it turns out buying the shovels, investing in vault companies, that's the future.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, but so Deutsche Bank was like 50 billion or something they have now in that. So it's a big institution, and Bitcoin doesn't take any space. You could hold $50 billion worth of Bitcoin on a hardware wallet. It's probably not advisable, but so yeah. I mean, I think the German economy have realised that again that they shouldn't try and ban math. They shouldn't try and curtail all this innovation. But actually, it can benefit them in some ways which they could find useful. So yes, it's both good news, both great for Bitcoin, particularly the German slant, because it encourages German banks to embrace the technology and start playing around with it more. It's good.
Dan,
now
sorry,
I was going to put my bank ad on. Now banks can also go fractional reserve with your Bitcoin.
Negative interest coming soon to Bitcoin. It's going to be sweet. Dan, Eve, would you go to Germany or India? Go ahead.
Well, so I thought Germany was already quite lenient because isn't there no tax on like capital gains crypto sales as long as you hold it for a year? Is that correct, Josh?
Yeah, that's correct. But this is because it was categorized as a commodity. So, and that's the deal with commodities, and that's why it got automatically that regulation. Yeah, but yeah.
They also had no Bitcoin ATMs for a while, but that opened up. That was a loophole. Did that stay open, Josh? Are there Bitcoin ATMs in Germany?
There are, but a lot of the word on the street, the word around the campfire, is that that they get a lot of hassle from the tax authorities. They get a lot of hassle from the from every authority. So it's not worth having one, apparently.
All right, let's go back to Dan. Is he going to eat sauerkraut or curry?
Oh, well, I'll go for sauerkraut anyway, because I was there in Bavaria over Christmas and it was absolutely awesome. Drove pretty much from north to south. But yeah, I think, there's Room 77, Jörg Platzer's place, that was in Germany. And there's a lot of things that happen in, a lot of good big conferences actually that happen in Germany. Blockchain Hotel. Don't know if that's happening this year, but I love that one too. And it's great that Germany's kind of embracing it as one of the biggest economies. Now with India, I think I read earlier today that there's a petition already against an appeal for that decision against the RBI. But a lot of people are saying, look, they've overcome it before. It's got to prove that Bitcoin isn't directly impacting on RBI and the central banking functions, which it kind of is, but they didn't prove it well last time. So then unlikely to prove it again this time. So I think it's very positive when any country kind of adopts laws about cryptocurrency or regulation that's kind of especially lenient, where the regulators work for them. On the custodianship, I think that's been, there's a lot of movement that's been happening in the background. Like CoinShares a while back signed, I think, with Nomura, the Japanese financial institution, for custodianship. And there's a lot of banks, it seems, kind of exploring the idea of custodianship. Obviously, that scares a lot of people because not your keys, not your Bitcoin. But then for other people who are like, I'm an idiot. Geez, I lose everything, like my sunglasses every day. Those people like the ability to go to someone and moan and get something back if they fucked up, basically, screwed up. So I think it's kind of a good thing for certain people. And if it gets them into Bitcoin, kickstarts the learning process, and then they move from custodianship to private key ownership, then that's better than just staying in a bank.
Moving on to the exit question: which country will change their tune next? Ben Ark.
What for the good question. All of them probably, with this coronavirus nonsense. When the world economy comes crashing down and Bitcoin's the only thing left standing, then yeah, probably all of them.
Josh Gagala, can you top all of them?
Yeah, Mars. No, I just want to quickly. No, I won't bother. Yeah, I think some of these. I find it really interesting, actually, what Ben said. I never really thought about it, and that's the fact that Germany has all this cash, these banks, and they're paying negative interest, and they don't want to exit the EU, which are enforcing through the European Central Bank the negative interest rates. So why not just buy Bitcoin? That's really interesting. The other thing with banks, just quickly on the last question, is that banks get hacked all the time, and you never hear about it. They don't talk about it ever. It's buried because it's just not good for business. So I am very, it's funny because all these regulators are like, banks, you need to have a professional banker. You need all these things to get the license, and really they're all idiots when it comes to crypto, because you need experts in this field. It's a very new field. You can't just say, oh, bank, because they can hold money. That means they're safe. They're not safe. They get hacked all the time. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, they're definitely not Coinbase. Coinbase is a very specific set of skill sets to hold so much wealth in a honeypot. But yeah, the next country, I'm not sure. Maybe yeah, Russia.
Dan Eve, we've got Russia. We've got all of them. What have you got?
I'm hoping it's the UK, or whatever the UK is after it's hard forked again from the EU, because it's a prime opportunity now to take advantage of the changes in regulation, and I think that kind of Britain's in a prime position to be at the forefront of this and go, right, okay, we've broken away, let's do something radical, let's adopt Bitcoin as a secondary reserve, I don't know, reserve currency or something like that, something that's a bit of a statement to kind of celebrate the fact that they've dropped it was a we decision, although I didn't play it. But yeah, hopefully, I think Britain, isn't it meant to be one of the financial capitals of the world? So it would seem logical that the financial capital of the world, or one of, would take advantage of the technology, especially in the, I say early days, but it's still early days, and then excel in that and take advantage of that prime spot.
There's additional guesses in the chat. They say China, Portugal, Spain, France, Poland, Bolivia, Greece, but they're all wrong. The correct answer is the Republic of Iran. Iran, that's right. They're getting by sanctions nationally. It's only a matter of time before they figure out they could let their people use this money as well. It's an incredibly anti-US thing to do, spreading the Bitcoin gospel to the people of Iran. Moving on to predictions or story of the week. Ben, are you ready with a prediction or a story of the week?
I should also say on that on the last exit question there that obviously Wales is going to be the first place to adopt Bitcoin, because we're going to break away from the rest of the UK. And if you look in the Yes Company propaganda pamphlet, in there's a big section on digital currencies and how Wales could use digital currency for that.
Wales exit, Scotch exit, Northern Ireland exit, so many exits.
And then I'll just be England left, this weird little bubble of people saying that they're
drinking tea.
No, prediction is just more conferences just flaking. I mean, not flaking out. I mean, it's a good thing that they're cancelling. It's a responsible thing to do. Getting lots of thousands of people together in a room and from all over the world, particularly Bitcoiners. We don't want the Bitcoiners get sick and die. That would be bad. But Bitcoin 2020, I mean, this was kind of easy to predict, but they've had to postpone the conference, and it's a great shame because I mean those guys, they work incredibly hard, and they're a great bunch, and yeah, it's a real shame that they're being put through the mill. It's going to cost them, I don't know how much it's going to cost them financially to postpone the conference. but it's very regrettable, but it's just a symptom of the times. And I think it's responsible that they've postponed it now rather than later on when people may have booked flights. So it gives people the opportunity to try and claim back some money if they have booked flights or accommodation or whatever. So we're just gonna have a weaker conference now. Bitcoin 2020 is postponed. The rest will follow, and it's to be expected, and it's a responsible thing to do. There's a lot of how Bitcoiners out there saying, "No, I don't care. I'm just going to go to the conference anyway." But what good are you doing really by doing that by spreading the virus? And it's all about immune system building. Eat some good food, go for a jog, get plenty of sleep, which I know a lot of us Bitcoiners don't like to do, but get some sleep is important. And and stay healthy. But my prediction is more conferences, just postponing.
Yeah, CoinFest conference was also moved to September. The MAD tour is pretty much on hold right now. We were going to go to Mallorca and CoinFest.
What's that going to do to the Bitcoin price, though, man?
It's a disaster for the Bitcoin price, obviously. And you're hearing about it right here. You're getting the early scoop, although it's been hinted on Twitter and other places that there wasn't much left to tour as the world.
Yeah, because all these Bitcoiners cashing out to go to Bitcoin conferences. So that's
I was meant to talk at Mallorca blockchain. Have they cancelled?
I don't think it's been canceled yet, but CoinFest was delayed till September. And even then, there's people saying that this might not be over by September. Of course, the president says it'll be over by April and that the cases will all go to zero. But that seems really unlikely. Josh Gagala, story of the week. Go ahead.
Story of the week. Yeah, I mean, Corona is just the story of the month, really, of the 2 months. I mean, this thing is people have got to realize the power of exponentiality, and this is something that they don't. And this is, I guess, what early Bitcoiners were good at, and that's why they saw that it had value. Because hang on a minute, this is kind of interesting terminology. The power of exponentiality. Oh, I better buy some. The doubling effect in Germany alone is 3 days. It doubles every 3 days, the cases. So if that is the case, then within 42 days we will see more than 8 million people with this. This is kind of insane. And then 3 days later, 16 million. So people don't panic, don't go crazy. But like a good Boy Scout, dib dib dob dob, get out there and just get a little bit of preparedness, just like that. And don't be silly. Don't go to large gatherings just because they didn't cancel it themselves.
Everyone's staying inside. Dan Eve, prediction or story of the week.
Okay, so going back actually just very quickly while we've gone back to coronavirus, because it's the talk of the town. One of those ripples actually very close to home. So 95% of flights out of the local airport are with a company that just collapsed. So that's 2,000 jobs down because everyone's asked for refunds and whatever's happened. So that's just, I think, one of the ripple effects. So story of the week, I think we possibly may see more of these happening where, orders are cancelled and some companies are falling, unfortunately. Not story of the week, that was a prediction. Story of the week, perfectly timed for the travel shutdown of the world. TripKey is raising TRIPPKI, a hotel booking platform that you can pay in crypto. We're doing a raise on Crowd for Angels. So please check us out. Check it out. I think we've already got 20% of the raise, but obviously we're looking for more because we're greedy. But no, only joking. Check it out. And obviously I'm hoping that the whole, we get a vaccine soon, freak chance, something like that. I don't know. But yeah, hopefully it doesn't last long because I need more t-shirts and I only seem to get them at crypto conferences.
The only way you're going to get t-shirts is at Bitcoin conferences. Your entire wardrobe in danger. Thanks so much to everybody for watching. Be sure to donate. We've got the QR code on your screen right now. We're trying to raise $1 million. It's going pretty well so far. The amount of Bitcoin we've been trying to get has gone down from
Just went up.
5 Bitcoin to 115, now a mere 109 Bitcoin. So we're getting closer and closer to our goal thanks to the price of Bitcoin going up. Also, be sure to check out the World Crypto Network. Subscribe down below, give us a thumbs up and a share, and check out the Thomas Hunt Show. Somebody started that this week. It's been fun. I've been doing some call-ins, so if you want to call in to the Thomas Hunt Show, and maybe people want to be guest hosts, we also did Saturday night, or what's it called, Bitcoin Saturday night. We had a fun time with Ugly Old Goat, and Juan Galt did that last week. We might try to do it again this week. Everyone's wavering. It's very difficult to write a weekly show every week, almost impossible, some would say, but somehow we just keep doing it. So that's about it. I agree with everyone else. We're all talking about the coronavirus. It's unfortunate that it didn't go the other way and that it hasn't gone the other way yet. People in the chat want congratulations. You were right. You were right on the virus that destroyed humanity. We were fools for being optimistic that it wouldn't destroy humanity. Curses on us. But now we've been talking.
I'd like to see how happy Greta is with this whole thing, because really the smog's cleared up across China. I wonder, I really do, like, I wonder if she's happy or disappointed, or if she's got mixed feelings. I'm just.
Well, remember, environmentally, 9/11 was actually a good thing because we stopped flying airplanes for about a week, and the smog and everything really did close up.
But in the same respect, it was a scary thing because we learned that there was global dimming, where actually all the contrails of all those planes is actually cooling the planet, the surface of the Earth, much cooler than it is. So everything's like a few degrees lower than it should be. So if you stop the planes from flying, then everything warms up, and the effects of global warming hit us harder. So. Yeah.
Oh, contrails, man, it's actually good. Oh, now we're conflicted because we're flying and we're destroying
the planes,
but we're flying and we're saving the environment. Oh, we can't have both. Interesting thing on the Greta story, I hear there's a new conservative anti-Greta, but just as you would expect, she's got some nasty skeletons in the closet, and some of them aren't just nasty but Nazi. But you know, that's how it goes. You just can't find someone.
It's just one letter away.
Doesn't have some of that nasty shit running around. It's always like they're always like, oh, I wish there were less humans on the planet, and you're like, oh no, wait a minute, one of those letters is wrong. But no, I think we're about out of time for today. Thanks to everybody in the chat joining us, giving us a thumbs up and share. Shout out to proper goal, gave us like 20 EU dollars, and somebody else also. Let me scroll back. Here it is. There's Uvas gave us $5. Thanks, Uvas. Thanks to everybody for donating to the Bitcoin address, or just giving us a thumbs up and a share, or writing a tweet about the show, or a comment. Comments are good. Those really help YouTube, tell people that this is good content and worth watching. So thanks so much for joining us. Until next time, bye-bye.